Let's begin those nostalgic memories with Bluestreak. Oh man, I remember having the blue version when I was a kid. Just kidding. Hey everybody, this is Chris and welcome to my Transformers collection and the very first episode. And I thought, to start this nostalgic series, I would go ahead and pull a figure from the very first year, and that is 1984's Bluestreak. He was one of the original members of the ARC. So in other words, Teletran 1 went ahead and formatted him into the Fair Lady Z, which is a really cool looking car. And if you know the Transformers, you know that this figure was actually recolored a couple of other times as Prowl and also as Smokescreen. So it was used a lot, and that's perfectly fine with me because I think it's a really, really cool mold. What I have here is an original Generation 1 release of Bluestreak. This is sealed in the box, in the packaging, and it comes from my original collection in the 90s when I actually used to collect sealed pieces exclusively. And this one, if you notice, has an autograph at the bottom right. It's awesome. You can see Bluestreak sitting in the bubble there, and it's an original piece. And this one does have the rub symbol, so this would be a second release of Bluestreak. The originals didn't have rub symbols, if you know the history of Transformers. But yeah, this box is in pretty good shape. It's a little bit worn in the corner, but overall, man, it just looks great. If we spin it around to the back, we actually see the 1984 world transformed action scene with really all the original characters that came out at the time. There's Optimus and Starscream. And of course, underneath all this is the original tech spec. Quote, "I never met a Decepticon I didn't dislike." And his function is gunner. And that's really true if we're talking in terms of the cartoon, because Bluestreak was kind of one of those interchangeable warriors. He didn't have that much of a personality that really stood out, except for the fact that Casey Kasem did his voice. And this kind of relates to what's in front of the box that I'll talk about later. Casey Kasem sort of had that sarcastic tone about him. And it really worked because he always had a witty thing to say. And so did Cliffjumper, also voiced by Casey Kasem. So that kind of stands out, at least in terms of his voice actor in G1. And I'm what's called an on-screen completist. So I'm interested in basically the cartoon toys. And there's Bluestreak right there. And just for you guys, I tore open the Bluestreak box and I pulled him out just so I could show you what he comes with. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I didn't do that. But what we have here is actually a Bluestreak, or I should say Silverstreak. This was the commemorative series reissue. It was kind of a Takara was doing reissues, then Toys R Us got some of them. Unfortunately, they couldn't use the word Bluestreak at the time, so they had to change it to Silverstreak. But it's essentially the same figure. There are a few minor differences, which I'll get into as we talk about it. But anyway, this is Bluestreak out of the box. All right, so if you pick up a Bluestreak out of the store, whether it was 1984 or a commemorative series or whatever, you'll get the instruction manual and the sticker sheet and probably some pamphlets. But as far as accessories are concerned, you will get 2 missile launchers, 3 missiles, and laser gun. Now, this is where the commemorative series does differ a bit. You'll notice that these missiles are actually black. In the original, they were silver, and they were chromed out. They looked really nice, too. And here is Bluestreak, and man, this mold just looks so nice. They did such a nice job with this particular car. It's beautiful, it's silver, it looks great, and I'll tell you, it's a really sharp looking design even today. Now, oftentimes this piece will be broken and has a tendency to break here, and also these flaps on the back, they tend to also get busted off, so you got to be careful if you're looking for one. You notice his license plate on the back and on the front says Streak. The original version said Fair Lady Z. So again, there's another change from Silverstreak. But man, just an overall really nice vehicle design. Looks great. Rubber tires and everything. The old days of rubber tires. And here is Bluestreak in robot mode, and man, I just think he really looks cool. He's a nice mixture of show accurate and G1 stiff, non-articulated goodness. You can move his arms around, but that's pretty much the only thing at this point. But the door wings sticking out and the shoulder rockets, he just really looks nice. Obviously, the Bluestreak version of this figure, the actual figure we're talking about, would have those silver missiles on his shoulder. These are black, but you get the idea. It's pretty darn close. In the show, they weren't red either, but you get what I'm saying. The shoulder rockets you have to put on yourself, and during transformation, they connect to the side of his head. And it's not so bad. You know, those tend to get lost on a lot of people's figures, but they look really nice in robot mode. The one thing I can mention is that the spring-loaded mechanism of the original Bluestreak is also missing from this iteration. You can see up here, there's no button whatsoever to shoot these missiles out. They just sit in there. The original did have a spring-loaded mechanism. Okay, before we finish this video, let's talk about Bluestreak and the craziness of its release, which kind of relates back to the joke, or I guess you could say if I was actually funny, that happened at the beginning of this video. Look at the artwork on this box. You'll notice that Bluestreak is actually blue, but the toy is not. In fact, the artwork, as well as all the stuff on the top and the actual toy itself and the product shots, is also blue. Well, this figure comes from the Diaclone line. And you probably all already know this, but for those of you who do not, he came from the Diaclone line. He was originally blue, okay? And that artwork you see is taken from the Diaclone original artwork, which had the blue. Now, there was another version of that came out with the black on the hood, and that was the version that was in the cartoon. And yet, the one we got was all silver. The blue Bluestreak is really a Diaclone model that has never been found in America. And back when I collected sealed pieces in the 90s, everybody said, oh yeah, I had a blue Bluestreak when I was a kid, and heck yeah, I've seen them in America. And nobody still has been able to present a blue Bluestreak in a US package, unless of course you're talking about a knockoff or something like that. And so that was always a big debate, you know, at one time about the blue Bluestreak. So Bluestreak was released in a real funky way. He's all over the place. Now let's talk about the autograph really quickly that's on the bottom of the box. I'm sure you already figured it out because I'm not really that smooth at keeping secrets, that is Casey Kasem's autograph. And I got this figure in 1997 at BotCon 97. This was the only BotCon that I had ever been to, and so far I've still never been to another one. This was in the charity auction for Shriners Hospitals. And when I saw it, I got excited because back in the 90s, I was a sealed collector. And of all the Autobot cars, the only one I was missing was a sealed Bluestreak. So I bid on it and I bid on it and I won. And part of winning was the money was all donated to the Shriners Hospitals. And it was autographed by Casey Kasem as part of the perks. And because the character to me was brought to life because of Casey Kasem, I thought that would be really cool. And at that time, I didn't have a lot of autographs on things. So that was a really cool thing, and here it is. I got a really nice letter back from Shriners thanking me for the donation, and I got my sealed Bluestreak. I also got a certificate from them as well. So it was a really nice thing. I got to help a cause and help my cause, which is to complete my sealed collection, and that one helped me complete my sealed Autobot cars. And there was a look at Generation 1 Bluestreak from the 1984 Transformers line. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had fun pulling out the old nostalgic memories. This is Chris, rolling out.